Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Sharief, Ishaq, 30 minutes from right now talking Saints, and we will get into LSU's 3 invitees to SEC Football Media Days coming up in 15 minutes. All right, let me throw the cards down on the table here real quick. This is the most difficult segment of radio in terms of effective communication that I do all year. And I'll tell you why. Because let's call it 18,000 LSU fans that were in Omaha, Nebraska that paid good money to go up and watch LSU in the College World Series win a national championship. Call it 18,000 that did that. I would guess 200 of the 18,000, and that may be generous, have ever heard of any of the people I'm about to read off to you on this list. They're LSU's high school baseball signees. So I'm talking to most of you, 99.9% of you, who have never heard of any of these people. So when I tell you Brady Ebell, you don't know any difference between Quentin Young or Mason Braun. Like, you don't know who any of those people are. And my job here is to effectively communicate to you who are driving or working out or running or, trying to go to sleep, or at work. Try to communicate effectively a message about a list that's not 2 or 3 people long, that's 17 people long, and you've never heard of any of them. And the point of this discussion, and I want to be clear, is not to give you a perfect read on all 17 of these guys so that you can turn around and go, okay, I got this whole signing class figured out. If you want to do that, you can listen to this 6 times and take notes and get through that, and that's awesome. I don't think you're going to. So the point of this exercise is to convey to you the volatility of this signing class. Because usually at LSU, which is different than Stanford, which is different than Indiana, which is different than Miami, at LSU, you've usually got like 2 guys in a signing class that have no chance to get to campus whatsoever. These are the Connor Griffins of the world that are the potential 8th pick in the draft or 4th pick in the draft. They're going to sign for $6 million. Like, there's usually a few of those. And then there are usually a couple guys from Barb, player from Catholic, 2 from Ouachita Christian, and a couple Jesuit kids from the Catholic League that are just going to end up at LSU. They're not going to be a significant draft risk. Usually like half the class kind of looks like that, right? So then you boil down the class, and there's 4 or 5 guys that you really got to look at that could go either way. They're not slam dunk, first round high draft choices. They're not way down the list. They're right there in the meat. And the meat of this thing is somewhere in the neighborhood of the 2nd to the 6th round. And you've got to identify those guys and go, okay, these are the ones you got to have a high hit ratio on. Because Jay Johnson says all the time, you want to go to Omaha, you want to win, you better have Major League Baseball players. And LSU, since Jay Johnson has gotten here, has had Major League Baseball players. They've also signed some Major League Baseball players who didn't come here. But that's part of going to get Major League Baseball players. You're going to end up losing them. And it's awesome to have Cade Beloso and Gavin Dugas and Alex Milazzo, and then from this past team, Michael Braswell. Like, those guys are not going to play for the Blue Jays, but they help you win college baseball games. You got to have those guys too. But the way to get this thing done is to go get pros, and the best way for LSU to do it is to go through the high school ranks. And this class has got a load of dudes who are 50-50 or 60-40 or 65-35, but they're in the gray area. And they've all got different life situations and different advisors and different communication methods with Jay Johnson and different promises that have been made in recruiting and different attitudes towards college. And you gotta win some of these battles. So let me paint this picture for you. There are 17 guys in the signing class. This is not my evaluation. Clearly, this is ESPN.com and Kylie McDaniel and his group evaluation. In his group evaluation, there are 13 of LSU's 17 recruits that are in top 250 prospects in this draft. That's not high school. That's including all the college guys too. That is a massively high number. And the highest one is Jaden Foskey at 31. So you don't have any in the top 30, which is technically the first round. Now you've got a couple more picks there and you've got a sandwich round. And yes, 31 is technically a first round pick by my definition. But none of them are like sixth. And between 31 and 150, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys between 31 and 150. And for reference, the signing bonus at 150 is roughly $475,000. So that's so many guys who are going to be staring down the barrel of a mid to high six-figure total and maybe a low seven-figure total, which, look, for the guy talking on the radio, low seven figures sounds pretty good. But these guys have massive aspirations. And sometimes they stare down those fat checks like Chase Shores did, like William Schmidt did, like Alex Bregman did, like Kevin Gaussman did. And they come to LSU in hopes to elevate that. Because if you can go, 20th, now you're talking about $4 million. You go 85th, 60 picks later, $935K. So there's a group here at the top that is so volatile on what their number is, when they get a phone call, what organizations think of them, and how they value themselves. So I'll give you a couple of names here, and I promise on either Thursday or Friday, I'll make my determination once I feel like I've gotten enough information. This is ESPN's evaluation, not my opinion of what's going to happen. I'll give you my predictions. I'm going to write a big piece up at LouisianaSports.net. It'll be free for you to read, and y'all can go dive into that, and you can have it handy when the draft starts on Sunday. But just to give you some thoughts on what Kylie McDaniel and ESPN think. Jaden Foskey is a really good athlete, infielder, outfielder from Illinois, 6'3". They got him ranked 31st. That's a $3 million valuation. That's a guy that at $3 million going to have a hard time luring him to campus. Quentin Young is probably the least likely guy to get to campus by most thoughts. He is related to Delman Young and Dimitri Young. He's their nephew. He's a great athlete, just a 6'5" horse of a dude from California. They've got him 36. Briggs McKenzie's a left-handed pitcher from North Carolina. They've got him at 73. Dean Moss, I'm very intrigued by. I'll talk about him a lot later in the week, but he's a guy that is more on the profile of the Derek Curiel because he doesn't hit for a ton of power. He has some power, but he's more of a contact hitter. He's from California, goes to IMG. They got him ranked 74th. He's a left-handed bat that I really like. Miguel Syme is a flame-throwing right-hander. They've got 85th. Marcos Paz is a 6'2 right-hander from Texas. They got him ranked 108th. Brady Ebel is a really good bat from the infield that's from California, $661,000 slot at 115. Reagan Ricken is a right-handed pitcher who's 6'5" from California. You got one Louisiana product in this entire list of 13 players that I'm going through on this ESPN list, and that is William Patrick, who's an outfielder from St. Fred's up in Funro. That's my high school's biggest rival. But William Patrick is thought of as a really good player, number 145 on this list. A name you'll probably remember pretty easily, River Hamilton, is a right-handed pitcher who throws really hard from the state of Oregon. They've got him at 184. Got a catcher in this class in Landon Hodge, who's 215. Mason Braun, he's from South Bend, Indiana. He's a shorter left-handed hitting first baseman who's 231. And then Zion Theopolis is a right-hander from Ohio who's 241. Again, you're not supposed to remember all those names, but the point of this is that as you start to pay attention to this draft and maybe for you paying attention to this draft, just diving into the perfect game profiles and checking out all the Baseball America stuff and reading Kyle McDaniel stuff and watching every pick of the draft and monitoring it on Twitter. And maybe you're all in on that. Maybe you're paying attention to the draft is, let me just hear what Hunt has to say. Maybe you're paying attention to the draft is, well, when it's over, just let me know who didn't get drafted. And none of that's the wrong way to approach it. That there are a lot of different ways to look at the roster composition. But to me, this is a fascinating time of year to look into how LSU's roster is going to look next year. And what's interesting is it's difficult to truly know what you need in the transfer portal before you know what high school kids you're going to get to campus. Because if you can get Dean Moss to campus, that really makes you feel a little bit better about Ethan Fry moving on, because you feel like Moss can potentially step in and start in the outfield. If you don't get Briggs McKenzie in this class, who's your best left-handed pitcher in the high school ranks, good thing you went to the transfer portal. What is Connor Ware doing? I don't know. You look at first base, which is potentially open on this LSU team. Can Mason Braun fill that spot? You thought that Costello was going to be that guy. Well, he jumped in the transfer portal, and incidentally, he's crushing the ball in summer ball right now. But he moved on. So there's just a lot of moving parts. I find it fascinating. I'm more fascinated by it than probably most of you. But the point of this segment was not for you to learn all these guys' names. The point is for you to know that there are probably two guys at the top that are less likely than the rest to get to campus in Foskey and Young. But there are then 9 or 10 guys, not 3 or 4, that you're looking at going, if you could get 6 of these, what a coup. If you only get 2, man, your high school class has gotten ripped apart. And that's what you're going to be looking at on Sunday in the first round, in the second round, but then more so as you get into the back end of things on Monday is the big day. And so I'm going to be a hardworking dude on Monday. That's going to be 1, our first day of SEC Media Days, 2, LSU Day at SEC Media Days, 3, the meat of the draft for this signing class. So probably not going to be able to meet the folks out at the local watering hole that day. We'll maybe get to that later in the week, but it's going to be a heavy workload on Monday, dealing with all the fun stuff we get to do in Atlanta for the show and for the site, and then what happens in the Major League Baseball draft, which incidentally is in Atlanta. So we'll do all of that next week, but that's kind of a intro to what you're looking at with this LSU baseball high school class. All right, when we come back, LSU's bringing 3 guys to Media Days next week, as I just mentioned. We'll talk about them coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
SEC Media Days coming up next week. We'll be in Atlanta, as we've told you numerous times. We will be there Monday through Thursday, and LSU will help kick things off on Monday, because that's going to be a busy day, as I just mentioned. And we found out today who LSU is bringing to SEC Media Days and the rest of the attendees from the other 15 member schools. LSU is going to bring Garrett Nussmeier, Whit Weeks, and Chris Hilton Jr. to the event. I think this makes a ton of sense. Clearly, you're going to bring Garrett Nussmeier. He threw for 4,000 yards last year, the second highest total in the history of LSU football. He is the top returning passer in all of college football, and he's a guy that's on some short Heisman lists. He's going to be there. That's just a no-brainer there as a returning starting quarterback. Whit Weeks finished second in the SEC in tackles last year. Just a monster year for him in terms of his productivity. He really took the next step from like bat out of hell freshman that we saw a couple of years ago that was making a lot of plays, but then probably out of position a lot, which is why he didn't play as much as he probably should have. But he really transformed into a really productive player last year. Made some huge plays, specifically in the Arkansas game. And so he's going to be on the first team all-conference preseason list by just about everybody, and going to get some preseason All-American recognition, I would imagine, at linebacker. So Garrett Nussmeier and Whit Weeks coming with LSU. And then I think Chris Hilton Jr. Just embodies so much good about college football because he was a big-time recruit coming out of high school. He signed in a loaded wide receiver class that included Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. And he just hasn't been able to put it all together to get to the field. And he's not a guy where you're like, oh, man, they must have misevaluated that guy. Because every time he gets on the field, he catches a 50-yard pass. It's uncanny how much he's been used down the field and how much success he's had in his very, very limited time on the field. But you know that Garrett Nussmeier has a good rapport with him. You know that he's got elite-level speed. And you know that he wants to be at LSU because he's had every opportunity to leave both in the transfer portal and to go to try his hand at the professional ranks, and he continues to stay at LSU for a fifth season. So that's just a story of perseverance, a story of a Louisiana kid that loves LSU, and a story of a guy who a lot of people think could have a breakout year this year in Baton Rouge. And I don't know that I'm going to peg anybody on this receiving core, not Berrien Brown, not Nick Anderson, not Aaron Anderson, not Chris Hilton. Like, I don't know if I'm going to pick anybody to go for 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. I feel like there's enough talent, and then the tight ends are going to take some balls as well, that it just doesn't feel to me like you're going to have a true number one wide receiver on this team. It's just going to be a balanced passing attack that spreads the ball out, and you've got a veteran quarterback who's very comfortable doing that. But in doing that, I think he is going to find Chris Hilton a good bit because they've just had such a good rapport over the last couple of years when Hilton's been at practice or I guess I should say, on the field. So I think these three make a ton of sense. I think they'll be great representatives of LSU, and I think that they'll do Brian Kelly and his program very, very proud. As we look around at other schools and who they're bringing, Alabama will not be bringing Ty Simpson, will not be bringing a quarterback at all. They'll bring Caden Proctor, a big offensive lineman who's got an interesting story because he transferred to Iowa and went back. But Deontay Lawson, Tim Keenan will also be there. Arkansas will bring Taylon Green, its quarterback. Auburn will bring Jackson Arnold, the Oklahoma transfer, who's their projected starting quarterback. So he'll be there. DJ Lagway, just a sophomore, will be at SEC Media Days for Florida. Georgia will bring Gunnar Stockton, who is the projected quarterback there. He played a little bit in the SEC championship game and then in the playoff game for Georgia after Carson Beck had the arm injury. So Stockton will be there. Kentucky won't bring a quarterback. Ole Miss will bring Austin Simmons. And so we'll be talking about on Ole Miss Day what Austin Simmons did in the rain against Georgia on one drive. And it looked really good. He went down the field and they got some points. But that's really been it for Austin Simmons to this point. We all just kind of assume with Lane Kiffin at the helm that you're going to have a productive offense and a good quarterback. I think there's reason to believe that's going to be the case. But Simmons will be there. Blake Chafin coming off an injury, the graduate from Evangel. Sorry, Jacob Hester. If he weren't doing an afternoon radio show and would have heard that, I probably would have gotten a text message about it. From Evangel in Shreveport, went to Baylor, was the starter at Mississippi State in front of Michael Van Buren last year, got hurt, missed the rest of the season. Van Buren started the last 8 games. Chapin will be there at Media Days. Missouri won't bring their quarterback. Oklahoma is going to bring transfer John Mateer, who comes over with his offensive coordinator from Washington State. He's a junior, and he'll be in that number for the Sooners. Lenora Sellers will be there for South Carolina. No Tennessee quarterback. Nico Iamaleava probably would have been there. Not anymore. So we'll see what the situation is at quarterback with Tennessee. I'll say this, and this will be a talking point for me in Atlanta when we start talking about the Vols. Like, after the Hendon Hooker year, where that offense looked so terrifying before he got hurt, you thought, well, is that just Heupel being a stud offensive coach, or is that Hendon Hooker shouldering the heavy lifting? And after watching what you've watched the last couple of years with Joe Milton and Nico run that offense, and it hasn't been nearly as good as it was with Hooker, I think it's evident that Hendon Hooker was shouldering a very heavy workload there. Like, I don't doubt Josh Heupel a ton. I think he's a very good offensive coach. I think his identity is very exciting, very interesting, and has been successful offensively for Tennessee, and they're certainly better under Heupel than they had been in a long time. But Hooker was the guy that made that thing go when it was going 3 years ago. So no quarterback for Tennessee. Texas will, of course, bring Arch Manning, their sophomore quarterback. Texas A&M will not bring Marcel Reed. They'll go with Will Lee, who's a DB, Armaj Reed Adams, offensive lineman, and then Torian York, a junior linebacker, I should say. And then Vanderbilt will, of course, bring Diego Pavia. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 quarterbacks of the 16 teams coming to SEC Media Days, LSU included in that number. So no, I don't know if there's any significantly newsworthy names for our market looking through there. I don't see any Louisiana kids that stand out to me that I know are from Louisiana outside of Blake Shapen at Mississippi State and Arch Manning at Texas. Arch is basically a national story, and Shapen is, at Mississippi State is going to be picked probably to finish last in the league this year. So not as star-studded a list of players as there has been in years past. I remember my last SEC Media Days was Johnny Manziel's Heisman year. After he'd won the Heisman, came back, and like the circus that created. I wasn't there for any of Tebow. Wasn't there for who else would have been incredibly noteworthy coming back? Manziel was a circus, though, when he was there, no doubt about that. And I don't see anyone besides Arch who may generate quite that much buzz. But I'm looking forward to get over to Atlanta and looking forward to bringing you all some incredible content on Monday through Thursday, both on the air during the show and also, of course, over at LouisianaSports.net. We'll have wall-to-wall coverage. That's your look at who the teams in the SEC are bringing for LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, Whit Weeks, and Chris Hilton. We'll step aside, come back with Sharief, Ishaq, talking a little bit of Saints when we come back on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Captives. If you are a sizable company, you've purchased your commercial insurance traditionally for decades, you feel like you pay a ton for it, you don't have very many claims at all, if any, thinking, how do I impact the bottom line here? Well, it's probably not going to be through paying traditional premiums. The market's just not going to allow for that. But a captive could change things for you. And if you haven't been presented that option, I strongly suggest you go check out my friends at the Highland Insurance Group. Call Jonathan Carbo and say, hey, I heard Hunt talking about captives. I don't know a ton about it, but I'd like to hear about it. Jonathan would be happy to sit down and have that conversation. To me, it's the future of insurance, but I'm just an ex-insurance agent. Talk to the current one who is an actual expert and see if you're a fit. It could be a game changer for you with your risk management and on your bottom line. Check out the website, HighlandIG.com. They're statewide in Louisiana, based right here in Baton Rouge. Jonathan's been at this a long time and certainly happy to help you if you feel like a captive may be a fit for you. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Hope your work week is off to a good start. Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Packed a lot into the first 90 minutes, 30 more to go. We'll start that with Sharief Ishaq from WDSU down in New Orleans. Talk a little Saints with Sharief. How you doing, sir?
Well, I'm just going to hang out the next 2 weeks. The next time I show myself to work will be whenever Mickey Loomis talks 2 Tuesdays from now.
Is he going to spit out his gum first?
I I think he's going to keep that joke going.
Okay, good. Will he have anything interesting to say?
Probably not. He really doesn't have ever interesting to say. A lot of word salad.
Yeah, it's what a lot of press conferences are these days. And look, I'm going to get a ton of it coming up at SEC Media Days when they train these athletes for 3 weeks to go over there and say nothing in Atlanta. And sometimes that's the case unless you can soften them up a little bit with some personal questions that they can have a little bit more fun with. And the actual football stuff that can get really monotonous. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll see how Mickey goes. But I want to talk to you about the Saints, and we'll try not to use any coach speak here. You saw a list of the top 100 players in the National Football League that was published by Pete Prisco of CBS. The Saints did not have one. Does that surprise you, and is that correct?
Well, based off the last few years, yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised, man. I think that maybe like Alvin Kamara probably should have been one of the guys on there who continues to play through all of the nonsense of bad football and some of his nicks and injuries. He's probably the only one, I think.
What about Eric McCoy?
Yeah, Eric McCoy, maybe. I mean, but there are so many good centers in the NFL now, Hunt. I mean, so many. But when you're on a team that just is terrible the last 4 years, it's going to happen. You're not going to find yourself on any list, and I think they're fine with that. They're looking at it probably the same way they're looking at not having a primetime game this year. We didn't deserve it. We didn't win any games. We didn't win many games. We're not a good team. We just have to, show it out in the field. And that's, the way I look at it when it comes to this list. You have to go out in the field and show everyone that you're worthy of being a primetime team and worthy of being on these lists.
So who's the next Saint that's going to be on a top 100 list?
Oof, boy, that's tough. That's really tough. I'm just trying to think. I'm just digging.
Fuaga, Olave.
I think Fuaga is the guy to me. I think Fuaga is probably the surefire one to be on it next. If Olave can stay healthy, he has a chance as well, but he just has a hard time staying healthy. And it feels like anytime he's healthy, I mean, he hasn't had the quarterback yet. And here you are again with no quarterback. And they're fighting for their quarterback right now to figure out who's going to be the starting quarterback. So maybe, but I think Fuaga is probably the easy one. I wouldn't be shocked in a few years from now Kelvin Banks will be on that list as well. I think he's going to be a pretty good offensive lineman for the Saints.
What if Chase Young has 13 sacks this year?
Then the Saints defense is going to be pretty good if he has 13 sacks, and they're going to certainly got more than they paid for. I would say that would be a great bargain if he got 13 sacks. And you're talking about a guy who has a chance to land on All-Pro if he gets to the 13 sacks and continues. Look, he had some disruptive numbers last year. Didn't have the sacks, but was in the backfield a lot. The pressures. If he has that 13 sacks and has a ton of pressures, double the pressures, and getting close to 30 pressures on top of the 13 sacks, that's close to being an All-Pro to me. And yeah, he probably ends up on a list for 2026. But yeah, I mean, those are some guys, but like Hunt, they have to show it. I mean, they really haven't shown it consistently. They've been a bad team for so long. It's just so hard to say, this guy should be. But to be fair, Fuaga really maybe was probably the one who was left out. I thought he was a really good left tackle for the Saints last year, but now, he's got to prove it from the right side.
Let me stick on Chase Young there for a second because they signed him to a prove-it deal. I thought he had a nice year. I didn't say he had a great year, an all-pro year. I thought he had a nice year. And they re-sign him. I keep talking about the odds that such and such player is on the next really good Saints team. What are the odds Chase Young is on the next really good Saints team?
For the deal they got him on, I think that they keep him for the majority of the time. I think. Look, I keep telling everybody I say watch out for the Saints in 2026. So I think he's going to be on the team next year.
Yeah,
and I think they're going to have another good draft. I truly think their draft class was solid. I mean, I think next year's will be even better. So he'll be on that team, and a team that's going to have some cap space. So yeah, he'll be a part of it. He'll be part of the next up-and-coming good run New Orleans Saints team. So, yeah, he's going to be there. I think he's going to be there. I mean, I have faith that Kellen and, even Staley Kellen and Staley will turn it around on both sides of the ball. I truly have that gut feeling with time it's going to turn around. And I think 2026 is going to be a far better year than this year.
Because when we talk about like the next great Saints team, the next good Saints team, like everybody's going to bring up Fuaga, and everybody's going to bring up Kelvin Banks, and everybody's going to bring up Tyler Shuck and Olave and maybe Shaheed and like Kool-Aid and some of those guys. But like, I feel like no one ever brings up Chase Young, and I'm not sure why.
It's because he's only been on for 1 year. And I think they think, well, this guy looks the part, but really hasn't given us, the stats. Because everyone, let's be fair, Hunt, everyone looks at the sack numbers whenever it comes to defensive end. And the numbers weren't there last year. But and in all fairness, it should go beyond sacks. It should go to how disruptive he was. And he was disruptive. He was good, like you said, but not great. So I think like he gets a full healthy offseason. Remember, he was dealing with the neck. Mm-hmm. He was coming back with the neck injury last year during the offseason. And he finally he was ready for training. He was good for training camp. He was good. It took him a few days, but he finally got into training camp. They brought him in slowly. But I think, I just think that being a healthy guy, getting his contract, I think he's going to be motivated on this prove-it deal. I think that he is going to double some of those numbers, and I think you're going to see an inspired Chase Young. But that's probably why. It was only 1 year. It was a small sample size, but fully healthy to start the offseason. So you're probably going to hear a lot more Chase Young. And I think Brandon Staley is going to optimize him a whole lot this year.
When you look at what Staley's trying to do and shaking up the front and going to 3 down, what is Cam Jordan's role on that edge? Because obviously you've got to talk about Granderson as well.
He's a 15-year vet. He's going to be a spot defensive end. They're paying him a lot of money, so I think that they'll use him. And I think they'll use him sparingly because you have to think the 2 guys on the edge are Chase and Carl. Those are your 2 guys. I think he comes in certain packages, and he'll give you what he can give you, and that's just what you get with a 15-year vet at this point in time. He's going to have to give you what he can give you. To line him up on the inside, awesome, do it. That's why I'm interested to see how training camp is going to look as we go along. What positions does he play? What positions some of the other defensive linemen play? But Cam is the guy I want to keep a close eye on. And in his 15th season, how are they going to use him, and how often will they use him with 2 young guys like Chase and Carl being the mainstay at defensive end?
It just feels like on that defense, you got one guy at every level that's just the grizzled old man, the Cam Jordan. Then you got Demario Davis, then you got Tyrann Mathieu. How important are those guys, do you think, to Brandon Staley as he tries to instill a culture in the defense that's brand new to him?
You said the word there, culture. You need the culture players to help, benefit the younger players and help teach some of the younger guys what the culture is with the New Orleans Saints, what the culture is in this city, and even the new coaches like Brandon Staley, as you said. You want those guys to be the leaders, and those are the right guys you want. And they've been there, they've done that. They know the time is pretty much coming to an end, and they want to leave a lasting, impression on some of the young guys. And they have to. At this point, you have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to find a way to contribute, and you have to find a way to spread that knowledge to some of the young guys on this team so they can continue this path and continue rebuilding this franchise and making sure it's headed in the right direction. And you can't ask for 3 better legendary players, to make that happen.
They certainly are that, some in different uniforms, but it's been an incredible run for those guys in the National Football League. And it just feels like those guys are key locker room pieces at this point more than they are productive pieces to the defense. Maybe not so much in DeMario's case because he did have a ton of tackles last year. But New Orleans set to report to training camp here in just a handful of weeks. Sharief will be all over to enjoy some time away, and we'll catch up.
All right, Hunt. Enjoy ATL.
I will do my best to do that. That's Sharief Ishaq, WDSU down in New Orleans. I was looking at the list of Media Day attendees, and I feel like my homework level really elevated before I get on that plane on Sunday because, there are so many guys on this list that I just can't tell you a ton about. And I feel like back when I went the first couple times, I just knew more about some of the guys that were going. I feel like I know Caden Proctor's story. I know Kalen Green's story. I know Jackson Arnold's story. That's 4, 5. DJ Lagway, yes. Of course, the LSU guys. Like, I don't even know the Ole Miss guys outside of Austin Simmons that they're bringing. And I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on that roster. Like, I don't know anything. South Carolina's not bringing one of the best pass rushers in the country in Dylan Stewart. So I don't know much about Nick Barrett or DQ Smith, who play defense for him. I've never heard of any of the 3 Tennessee attendees. That's a team that's been dripping with talent the last few years, like Arian Carter, Miles Kitzelman, and Bryson Eason. Just don't know a lot about that. Texas, I can do okay. A&M, I can do okay. And Vanderbilt's got Diego Pavia. But, like, so I'm going to have to do a lot of homework because, as y'all know, like, when we sit down on Radio Row, especially me in the middle of the day, there are going to be players walking the halls. And, like, they're going to sit down while you're live on air, and you got to conduct an interview. And so if I could just pull up a random name, Missouri, Connor Tollison sits down and right across from me, like, you got to know who that is. And I, candidly, right now, we don't go for another 5 days to Atlanta. I don't know who Connor Tollison is. Can't tell you one thing about him. So we're going to have to do a little bit of research on these folks. But I'm glad the SEC finally sent that list out. And if you missed this a little bit earlier, LSU is going to bring Garrett Nussmeier, Chris Hilton, and Whit Weeks. So we've got one more segment to go. We'll take it or leave it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. That's as good as you're going to find in the industry. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Also, 3 years complimentary maintenance, and that complimentary maintenance is valet. So if you don't want to spend your morning getting your car serviced, getting the oil done, getting the air filter changed out, wiper blades, wiper fluid, all that, don't want to spend the morning doing that, well, don't. They'll come get your car. They'll take it. They'll do it for you. You can just go on about your day with the loaner that they provide for you. And when it's done, they bring your car right back to you. You never lift a finger. Easy as that when you are a Genesis of Baton Rouge driver. If you're buying a new vehicle, you're probably going to be on Airline Highway. So why don't you just trickle on in right there, Airline at Pico, across from Women's Hospital. Say, hey, heard about y'all on Hunt's show. Let's chat about it. You'll be so impressed, one, with the people at Genesis of Baton Rouge, and two, with the line of vehicles that they've got on the lot. Check it out online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Enjoy a VIP experience with the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge team and the Baton Rouge Rougarou when they welcome in the Acadiana Cane Cutters this Friday, July 11th. Food from Raising Cane's and beverages will be provided. Register today under the contest page at 1045ESPN.com.
All right, just about ready to wrap things up here on a Tuesday. Chugging right along. Hope your work week is off to a good start. I've got the daunting task this weekend of handling the kiddos with no help.
Ooh.
Wife is headed to Vegas for Backstreet Boys.
Man.
That means it is just me. And let me tell you, if Friday and Saturday night go like last night did in my house, that's not going to be good.
No?
Both of them woke up 4 times apiece.
Ooh. I thought
Myers sleeps like a brick.
I was going to say, I thought he didn't wake up.
For 3 years, he has. And last night, he just kept waking up.
Is it still the spiders, or what was it?
No, that was one time. This was, we don't have a good answer for last night. He didn't even talk to me when I went in there.
Just crying?
Just like in a trance.
Maybe he was like sleep.
Keller had an excuse. He got shots yesterday, so
yeah.
You get all hyped up on that. It is what it is. But they need to sleep better than that this weekend, because if they don't, that's not going to be great for me.
No, it's not.
And then I'm going to leave.
Then you're leaving.
Then I'm going to leave for 4 days.
Yeah.
And I was just gone for 12.
So this is fair play for you, honestly.
Yeah, it's for work. Omaha's work. Atlanta's work.
Yeah,
she's just going to play, watch the Backstreet Boys. So yeah, we gotta tighten it up in the Palmer house and the sleep cycle coming up this weekend. All right, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take
Flight by Yingling, next generation of light beer. It's summertime. It's hot outside. You're looking for something light but delicious to drink. Flight by Yingling has all the characteristics of the light beer. 2.6 carbs, just 95 calories, but you also get that distinct beer flavor. It is delicious. We were knocking them back at the lake over the weekend. You can as well, whether you're out in the yard, by the pool, at the lake, on the beach, golf course, by the grill, fishing, whatever you're doing outside. If you're looking for a light beer, Flight by Yingling is your spot.
All right, first one here. We talked about this last week. LSU had the SEC Network takeover.
Yes, they did.
Tomorrow, South Carolina will be taking over the SEC Network hunt.
Gamecocks.
And on the docket for 3 a.m., the Equestrian SEC Championship, which the Gamecocks won.
Excellent
the Equestrian Championship. Take it or leave it.
Well, I'm going to leave it for South Carolina. Obviously, y'all just go ahead and take that. I did catch Flynn attempting to break down the Tour de France on the show this morning.
Wow.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
it just started this week.
Completely unwatchable television. The Equestrian Championship falls right in there, as does the Tour de France.
I don't think it's not completely unwatchable, because there are crashes sometimes, which are very they're exciting.
I don't need to see a bunch of people crashing bikes.
Yeah.
And I just think that when the bikes and the cameras are moving at such a speed where you can't tell what anyone's doing, it's just everyone's just kind of going and they're all staying still on the screen. That's unwatchable.
Okay, well, it's funny you say that, because my father-in-law is a very big cyclist guy. I'm pretty sure he's going to watch like every day of this. And you know how long the race is, right? It's literally a month long.
Yeah, it's bad.
And he's going to watch every day of it, and he's going to enjoy watching it. So there are people out there that watch it.
So for me, like, racing is this. I will watch swimming races that take 4 minutes.
Okay.
I will watch track races that take 20 seconds. I will watch horse races, which take 2.5, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the end of me with the races.
That's it.
I can't do NASCAR for 4 hours. That's absurd.
No F1.
I'm certainly not watching guys, F1 rolling around. I'm not doing that. No chance. No chance I'm watching a cycle race for 2 hours or for a month. That's just never going to happen. Like, racing needs to get on with it. Like, I need to see the race, and the race is over. I can't watch the drawn-out portion of the race. No chance.
All right, last one here. The aisle seat is better than the window seat on a flight. Take it or leave it.
Leave that.
Leave it alone.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to take it, Hunt, because I need as much room as I can get.
You need more room than most, but I need the window seat so I can put my head against the window and have the side.
That is ideal.
Now, what you get when you lose the radio station's equipment in the St. Louis airport,
you didn't lose it,
Omaha,
it was lost for a brief time. It was misplaced.
But that made me get on the plane last, which got me a middle seat. That was tough. But I got a break in this sense. I had to wake up at 3:15 in the morning, so I was very tired.
Yeah.
And I was relieved I had found the equipment, so I was able to kind of doze off for a few minutes on a short flight in the middle seat. But you don't want to be in the middle seat.
What seat are you going to have next week? Do you know?
I didn't book any of that.
Okay.
And I don't know what airline we're on. I know that it is in New Orleans, and I know what time the flight is.
Okay, well, that's all you really need to know.
They've got all the flight information. I just get on the plane with all the rest of the people. So we'll see. New Orleans to Atlanta, I don't really care.
Yeah, it's like,
especially the time we're going to fly. I'll probably have a cocktail, and I'll probably read some magazines about football. So it'll be fine either way. If I'm trying to get some Z's, it's got to be.
Yeah, you need the window.
For sure. So we'll see. All right, that's it for Take It or Leave It, brought to you by Flight by Yingling. Fun show today. Open things up talking about Kelvin Bolden, I should say, that LSU hired away from Ole Miss. You want to watch that or listen to it on demand. Hunt on LSU for all your LSU football news. Alvin Kamara is a top 10 running back, according to the execs and coaches and scouts in the NFL. Glenn West, we talked some LSU football and baseball. I gave my thoughts on Connor Ware. You can also read about that at louisianasports.net. He's got a decision to make over the next 7 days, so curious to see how that all shakes out. And I kind of gave a thought on what Connor Ware could be to next year's pitching staff if he were to return. 2 o'clock started to ease into LSU's high school signing class. It's a tough ask. It's a lot of names. but I think I kind of set you up there with what we're looking for over the next week. SEC Media Days talk at 2:15, and then Sharief talking Saints, which you can find at Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcast. Whole show also archived YouTube or wherever you find your sound. That's it for us on this Tuesday. We're back Wednesday, same time, same place. Matt Moscona about to drive you home on After Further Review. Y'all stay safe. Have a good one this evening. We'll see you tomorrow for that Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show on the Capital City's leader for sports talk, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.